Mm. Thank you very much. It's been in, yes. Thank you very much. Please note that in this partial tribute event, we don't have any chief guest or something like that because we are only some like-minded person or well-wisher for the CST have gathered to pay tribute to Dr. Dewan. And let us start with a short note on Dr. Dewan or about his activities. Let me read out the short note. Dr. Ramona Chanda Dewan or R.S. Dewan, a flawless patriot and an incomparable campaign soldier who was living in Manchester, England, passed away at the age of 89 on March 29, 2021. At his departure, the Jumma people have lost a revolutionary son, while the international well-wishers and campaigners for the CST cause have lost an ideal and selfless friend. After completion of his MPhil and PhD, he worked for a short while, and then he became the international spokesperson of the Parvati Chattogram Jana Samiti or PCJSS, and campaigned for Jumma people's right to self-determination. Since 1970s, he did his campaign around the world, particularly in Europe and in the United Nations. He used to send documents of the CST situation to all concerned persons and organizations around the world until he died. In the 70s and 80s, the Bangladesh government was carrying out a fascist repression on the indigenous Jumma people, keeping it hidden from the international community by entirely blockading the CST region. At that time, Dr. Dewan was the pioneer to bring the CST issue to the international arena. He was able to build a strong opinion in the international arena in favor of the self-determination movement of the Jumma people. With the unwavering support of the Anti-Slavery Society, Survival International, Quaker Peace Service, Amnesty International, Organizing Committee on CST Campaign, International Work Group on Indigenous Affairs, among others. In the early days, he used to reminisce about the support of Peter Davis, a human rights activist of Anti-Slavery Society, and Lord Avebury, member of House of Lords in the British Parliament, and also chairman of Parliamentary Human Rights Committee. Without whose help, it would be difficult for him to start an international campaign. At that time, especially the Anti-Slavery Society, Survival International, Amnesty International, IWGI, etc., also published many reports on the ongoing brutal repression of the Jumma people. In 1986, the initiative to constitute a commission on CST affairs was undertaken in an international conference of CST affairs held in Amsterdam as part proposal contributed by the human rights organization I already mentioned earlier, and international friends like Dr. Teresa Aparicio, Dr. Wolfgang May, Andrew Gray, and Yannick arranged to name some. and also Jumma representative, including Dr. R.S. Dewan. So accordingly, his contribution toward formation of International CST Commission in 1989 has been most reckonable. In 90s, the CST Commission visit to the Jumma refugee camp in India and the CST in Bangladesh, and then his publication entitled "Life is Not Ours" opened the eyes of the international community to the appalling human rights situation in the CST. As a result of irresistible movement of the Jumma people with the support of tireless campaign of Dr. Dewan, an international human rights organization, Bangladesh government was forced to sign the historic CST Accord with PCJSS in 1997. But it is unfortunate that Bangladesh government has not implemented the peace accord fully, and it has stopped implementation process completely. Dr. Dewan's only dream was to establish the right of self-determination of the Jumma people. To fulfill his dream, Jumma people still need to go ahead with a lot of struggle, sacrifices, and determination, and of course, with the kind help of the international community. However, this movement will be not limited to or not only within the CST Jumma indigenous people. It will be by all indigenous people of Bangladesh. And at the end, I must say that his personal legacy or contribution be a source of inspiration to the future generation of Jumma people, as well as freedom-loving people around the globe. And that is the end of my short note. Thank you very much. In my invitation letter, I mentioned that I and our project talukdar will be moderating the event. But no, one lady also has joined with us, and most of you know her very well. She is Chandra Roy Hendrickson. You know her. She was the chief of the Permanent Forum of United Nations, and also she is retired now. I requested her to help us moderate this event. She happily and voluntarily accepted my request. Thank you, Ms. Roy Hendrickson. Now it is your turn, please.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, to everybody. It's very good. First of all, it's very good to see all of you. Unfortunately, it's for a sad event that took place, and I wish that we had thought of doing this earlier when we actually had Mr. Dr. Dewan with us to celebrate his life. However, better late than never. It's great honor to be asked to help out and to moderate this event. I know that you've been asked to speak for about 2 to 10 minutes, but maybe if you can limit to 5 to 7, that would also give others an opportunity to speak. We're going to start with the elders first. As you remember, it's our custom always that we go with the elders. We have great respect for the elders. And since I'm now part of that group, it's quite invigorating to be there. We're going to start off first with our Azu, Dr. Aditya Kumar Dewan, and we're going to ask him to say a few words to start off the event. Azu, Torfalaike.
Okay, thank you, Chandra. Thank you also, Pradeep and Preeti, for organizing this event. And also, we already had one with our Chakma Jumma people. And this is basically a second event to celebrate and the works and life of Dr. R.S. Dewan. And we have lost a great soul for the Jumma people. So I don't want to just go over all those, but simply I want to highlight some of the things that he was actually early leader that has, took initiative for the resistance movement in the Chittagong Hill Tracts. If you are a scholar, if you're writing something, I think we should start the origin of the resistance movement in the Chittagong Hill Tracts with the works of Dr. S Dewan. And I should mention here, those of you who are early, made attempt to involve with the Chittagong Hill Tracts issues are basically here. Janaki, Ian, Olgong, and I met them and in Hamburg International Chittagong Hill Tracts Conference in 1991 or 1990, I forgot exactly the date. And I met Janaki and Ian and also Dr. Dewan. Okay, so he was basically a very modest person and he doesn't want to bother anyone else. And that's why when we have been having the discussions in the first event that took place, and some people asking why we don't know about the passing away of Dr. Dewan for a long time, and actually people tried to keep in touch with him, but he had disconnected his phone and everything because he doesn't want to bother anyone. So this is one thing, and also that's why living in England, they have been able to find out how he passed away, and it's very difficult to get into his building because of the security reasons and other reasons. So we just blaming each other for not taking care of Dr. Dewan, but he wanted to, he wanted to stay away from our other people, not to bother them. Okay, so I will not go into this. Basically, I'll talk about his mission and vision. As I said before, his mission was for the Chittagong Hill Tracts campaign, self-determination of indigenous people in the Chittagong Hill Tracts, and vision was his self-determination. Mission was doing campaign there, and I am comparing his mission and vision, although he did not say. And Dr. Martin Luther King, when he said was involved in civil rights movement in the United States, he said, "I have a dream." Same thing, Dr. Dewan had a dream of the self-determination of the indigenous people in the Chittagong Hill Tracts. That's what I want to say. And this is the early stage where Dr. Olgongme, Janaki, and Ian was involved in the campaign, and also Chandra was there. Also, there was another one, Jayati, and I don't see her very much. And also in the second, movement areas that I can see, there are people who are dedicated here. Is Elsa. We meet every year at the UN conference. Elsa was instrumental in organizing the Chittagong Hill Tracts case at the United Nations, and also CST Commission. And everywhere, whenever anything happens, and we see Elsa was giving a statement on behalf of the CST Commission. So, and also this is Binotamai also was there. He's right now, I hope, in Australia. So I will not take too much time. There are many people who wants to talk here. Okay, so thank you very much, everyone. For I can see the old friends, and we met here, all of us friends of the Jumma people. Basically the international friends who are helping us or already help us. So thank you very much for appearing at this event. Thank you very much.
Sunaradi শোনানো যার
mute আগে সব
Yes, sorry. I'm using, this is not my computer, so I'm not used to it. Mine I couldn't get it to. So, but thank you very much to Dr. Dewan, Aditya Dewan, for putting it also nicely onto the international stage. That is actually how Dr. Dewan helped most, I think, in the hill tracks. I myself was just starting out, and it was the first time I went to the UN in Geneva, and that's where I had the privilege of meeting Dr. Dewan and starting off with the UN and international work. And we're going to pass on now, and we're going to go to Professor Dr. Wolfgang May. Wolfgang, Dr. May, you have I won't say the floor, but the microphone. So please go ahead.
Right. All right. Thank you. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank the organizers to have arranged this meeting, which is very important. I think remembering Ramendo in a proper way, we can do it only now. And great that you have made it possible. My communication will be a rather personal one. And yeah, apart from that, I'm glad to see so many of you I've met a long time ago, especially Chandra, long time ago. We were still young in those days. And all the other colleagues and friends from Holland and from India and Canada. Some faces are new to me, so I'm glad to meet you too. Now, I must admit that I've dreaded such a day, namely to realize that I've lost someone who has meant a lot and means a lot to me. I met Ramendo first must have been mid-1970s in London. And in all those years, I knew him to be an extremely humble man who always put the cause first and himself last. But it was only when I visited in Manchester that I learned about his circumstances. He was very quiet and he never explained in what circumstances he lived, but only that I learned that he lived in a 2-room flat in a council estate, and to save money, he lived without hot water and heating, even in winter times. It was really cold when I was there. And he prepared his modest food in a slow cooker. It was a big box with a 25-watt bulb in that. And there he kept the rice for, let's say, 12 hours, and then it was all prepared. So, yeah. And I remember that once his welfare had been cut off because he was asked to put his labor on the market, which he refused. And then he told me that he had lived on the grass and roots he dug out and picked up as vegetables in the large open space of the housing block. He used to walk around in his flat with a number of jumpers and well wrapped up, and sometimes even in a thick winter coat. It was, as I felt, a life on the edge of supply. And he put literally every cent he had into his campaign work, and writing on a typewriter from dating back to the early 1970s until it broke down only recently. And since then he wrote his letters, block letters by hand. He had an enormous knowledge of people and NGOs and government institutions. And he was in contact with ministries and governments all over the world. And he knew always who to contact with what concerns. He always put the fate of the people of the hill tracts in the foreground, but understood politics in East Pakistan and later Bangladesh on a level of both micro-political and macro-political developments. And this gave him a view of the cross-regional politic processes. The goal of his campaign was the self-determination of the Jumma people in the hill tracts. Given the geopolitical situations in the hills and in the neighborhood to the surrounding countries, this was more, as we just learned, more a vision than a concrete prospect. His ecological footprint was extremely small. His footprint as an activist and a human being was very large indeed. I'm deeply impressed by the fact that his small housing, his small 2 flats, was a center of almost wide world campaigns for human rights for more than 50 years. And that with a minimal budget, which he used really most effectively. Ramendo, you had and you have my full admiration. To sum up, he was an upasaka, a devotee in the true sense of the word. And this brings me to another aspect of his life. His Buddhist orientation enabled him to accompany the upheavals of his life and the experiences of people's fate in the hill tracts with metta, that is, with loving kindness. But that did not stop him from clearly identifying perpetrators and profiteers of human rights violations, both national and international. His regular meditation sessions were guidelines of his spiritual life and helped him to lead a life both as an hermit and an activist. I'm happy to have known him as an activist and a friend. It's not possible to replace him. It's only possible to preserve and live his principles as an example. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. May, Professor May. I remember Wolfgang when he first came to the Hill Tracts. I think he was staying with us at our house, and we were young, quite young then. And it's wonderful to see you now, and that your commitment to helping the Hill Tracts people continues and is as strong as ever. Thank you very much for your touching tribute to Dr. Dewan. As you say, he was a wonderful, humble, very warm-hearted, kind and generous person. And I was just talking the other day how the first time I met him at the UN, the first thing he said to me was, "Hinehe homordororo," that first eat and be strong enough so you can continue with the work. And that is how his motto is, how do we continue with the work? Professor Dr. May was one of the co-founders for the CHT Commission. And we move now to the other co-founder of the CHT Commission. We ask now for Jannica Arens, who has been a lifelong campaigner for the CHT, and also, I do want to mention that also lives in very simple, modest manner so that she can do what she can to help others. Jannica, you have the speak up now.
Thank you very much, Chanda. I feel very honored that I can be here to honor Ramona Chanda, who has been very near to all of us and who was, you all already mentioned, such an extremely humble and beautiful person, actually. And I want to say, first of all, also that unfortunately, Willem van Schendel could not attend to this meeting. And so both Jan and me are here to represent the organizing committee CHT campaign. And so thank you very much that, we got the contact, and I'm very happy to see some of you whom I have not seen in long time to see here. We first met Ramona Chanda in person in 1986 when we held the first international Chittagong Hill Tracts conference in Amsterdam, organized by this organizing committee CHT campaign, which we had set up specifically to organize this conference. And both Ramona and also Yves, I must say, were very instrumental during this conference to bring out the initiative to set up this Chittagong Hill Tracts Commission of Investigation. Ramendo has been extremely instrumental also in setting up the commission and facilitating the whole investigation of the commission in the Chittagong Hill Tracts. When we were in London to prepare for the CHT commission, for the trip, Ramendo, we were all totally surprised when Ramendo came up with some very extremely detailed maps of the Chittagong Hill Tracts, which we could use to prepare our trip and to know exactly the situation. And that was so wonderful. Of course, he had been in close contact with the JSS to prepare for this whole meeting, but without him, we could never have prepared the trip so well, which we could. And so that was really wonderful, and he could give us such detailed information, because of course we have never been directly in contact with other persons from the JSS. That has been very, very important and instrumental. And also, not only the maps he prepared, but also on the ground in the CHT, he had prepared, that we were coming. And so JSS could mobilize a lot of people to meet us. And I remember Prodir extremely well from our trip. And I was actually very impressed also by Prodir. He was such a brave person to meet us and to tell us so many things. And a lot of the Jumma people were extremely brave, and it was really wonderful. And thanks to Ramendo, the JSS could have such information about our trip and about our investigation. And so he has been extremely wonderful, and his whole person, he has sacrificed his total life so much. And I was really shocked to hear that he had gone, and in his all alone he had passed away, and that was really, really big shock actually. And I was really feeling, this man, I don't know anyone who has really sacrificed his life so much for the cause of his people. And so I really extremely thankful for his life and for what all he has done. And so that's what I would like to say. Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much, Yannicka, and thank you for all the support you always give to the CHT people. And on a personal note, just to say thank you for all the support I received when I was actually based in Holland, and also, of course, to Jan and to Willem, to the organizing committee. Thank you very much, Annette. Of course, we are very much counting on your continuing support as we go forward with the movement for the rights of the indigenous peoples of the Chittagong Hill Tracts. We move now to Professor Dr. Elsa Stamatopoulos. She is the co-chair of the CHT Commission, as Dr. Dewan mentioned, very active, very passionate. And she's now professor at Columbia University. She was actually my predecessor at the UN Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues at the UN headquarters in New York, and I tried to follow her huge footsteps. So Elsa, please, you have the floor. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Chandra, and to everybody for inviting me to this. It's really an honor, and I'm very moved to be here. And I realized that although I didn't have these personal meetings, these personal experiences with Dr. Dewan, he has laid the foundations of so much of the international work that we have been doing. So, respected elders, dear sisters and brothers, dear friends, today we are paying tribute to Dr. Ramona Chanda Dewan, a selfless and tireless human rights advocate who devoted his life to the dignity and rights of the indigenous Jumma peoples in Bangladesh. Diaspora and self-exile are often major tools in the struggle of peoples, especially in long-term social struggles, especially difficult ones, as is the struggle of the indigenous peoples of the CHT. Dr. Dewan was an inspirational example of dedication, courage, and vision for his people, a person of high integrity and ethos. His role in the international campaign to save his people and to support their dream for peace, human rights, and self-determination was hugely appreciated around the globe. And for this and all that he's devoted his life to, Dr. Dewan will be forever remembered and honored. May he rest in peace, and may we all continue his efforts from whatever corner of the world. Dear friends, standing in front of the Jumma people today is humbling, because it is you that have resisted, persisted, and led the vision of peace and life with such inspiration and courage. You want to be architects of your lives, and we recognize your plight, the plight of your communities, your children and grandchildren. I would like to pay tribute to the indigenous peoples of the CHT, victims and survivors of the absence of peace and human rights that you have been experiencing. So I would like to express solidarity for the indigenous human rights defenders who are persecuted and even killed for defending the rights of their peoples. The CHT crisis has lasted too long. People are longing for peace and human rights, for equality, for diversity, for intergenerational justice as well. The CHT Peace Accord requires a serious commitment on behalf of the government that has yet to be demonstrated. Human rights violations continue in the CHT, not least by a violation of indigenous women's bodies. The international community, including the International Commission on the CHT that I have the honor to co-chair, cannot let go the issue of the CHT. So abhorrent is the issue that it weighs heavy on the conscience of humanity. Your struggles are embraced by international law. The UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples is a major normative framework for preventing and solving conflicts. It contains a number of significant articles in this area, and it says that military activities shall not take place in territories of indigenous peoples unless they have given their free, prior, and informed consent. Dear friends, we know that conflicts affecting indigenous peoples are often underreported. Fortunately, thanks to indigenous peoples advocacy, we have 3 UN indigenous related bodies that promote and defend indigenous peoples' rights and shed light on these otherwise underreported struggles, including, of course, that in the Chittagong Hill Tracts. The Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues, both in 2016 and this year actually, focused on peace and conflict and indigenous peoples. And in both cases said that, of course, peace has to go together with justice. And this year in particular, it focused on the importance of indigenous people's own institutions in building peace. And also it said how important this is, among other things, in creating these intergenerational links to peace, and also in averting fundamentalism and extremism among youth. So it is very important that we look at these lessons. And we have learned many lessons actually from the struggles of the indigenous peoples of the CHT. And we learn, among other things, that when things seem quite impossible at home, it is that international solidarity that we go to. It is the other indigenous peoples, the non-indigenous peoples. It's the human solidarity that plays a role and that will help us see opportunities and network and find ways, facilitating ways and creative ways to look at possibilities that might appear. Dr. Dewan's legacy tells us actually that advocacy at international level is an extension of our citizenship from the national to the international level. People's international advocacy activates this solidarity and support networks, finds opportunities where things may appear impossible at national level. It connects us all under our common humanity. This is why we're here today. We know that you will continue to be engaged, to participate, to exercise your power as community leaders in the CHT, to share solidarity, optimism, and creativity to resolve problems. And let me conclude with these words inspired by the life of Dr. Dewan. Through peace-building processes, the indigenous peoples of the CHT are writing their own history and expressing their self-determination. These words, the four words that come to mind are resistance, persistence, resilience, and vision for life. These are the words of the Jumma people. Thank you for letting me share these words with you. And I'm very moved to be here today with you. Thank you, Chandra.
Thank you very much, Elsa. As always, a very evocative, compelling statement that brings it all together so well and leaving us with these words of wisdom at the end. Thank you very much. We move now to Sophie Gregg. Sophie, thank you for being with us. I know that you have other priorities as well, so thank you for staying online.
Well, thank you very much, and I apologize because I am in the middle of a park on a day out with my daughter, and I'm hoping that there aren't too many loud picnickers or people about to come and interrupt. But I wanted to thank you for organizing this, and obviously, like everyone, I was so shocked to hear about Dr. S Dewan's death and the manner of it, and was so sorry that he came to the UK and that we weren't able to be there for him at the end. And I think like everyone, that's been something that's been very upsetting and sad for us all after such a long and distinguished life. And one of my first memories of being at Survival when I started, which is 26 years ago now, which is not long compared to how long many of you have been actively involved campaigning for the CHT. But one of my first memories was coming across Remendu, as we called him's reports. Even then, they stood out as unusual because they were typed on a handwritten typewriter, as of course they carried on being for a very long time. And he was already by then extremely well known at Survival, and people told me about him and how, these reports had been coming already by then for more than a decade and enabled Survival and so many others to work. And as I'm sure you all remember, his reports so incredibly detailed and meticulous, and really enabling us and the 300 or so other people and organizations who received them to really expose what was happening in the CHT and to ensure that the world knew what was going on. And that would have been impossible without the work of Remendu. And he certainly, I think Survival would never have been able to work for so long without him and without the information he was able to produce and to share with so many. And I'm convinced that without the work that he did, the atrocities would have been even worse than they were. I'm really sorry that I never met him in person. I feel like I did, because we used to talk regularly on the phone when he had a landline, and we used to share cards and letters, and have done for many years. And I always planned to visit him if I found myself in Manchester, and I never ended up going, which of course I now bitterly regret. Few people have ever been as dedicated to the cause as he was, preferring to spend his money and energy on his campaigning work, and of course not on himself. And I would hear stories from Jumma friends who visited him after coming to or from London, and hearing how he refused to spend money even on electricity or warmth or for himself, eating only cold food and not even heating his flat in the coldest English winters. Despite not allowing himself any comforts or warmth, he was incredibly kind and warm himself. And he always remembered, you know, my family, my children, their names, their ages, always asked for them, remembered what stages they were in life, and, you know, oh, Dylan must be coming up to studying, you know, 18 now, congratulations. So thoughtful and kind and warm. Was so, you know, just that sort of feeling that emanated from him. I remember going and visiting in the CHT and meeting some of his family members who were so proud of him. And it was really a wonderful moment to go and spend time with them, and for them to sort of hear from me about the importance of his work in enabling us to do what we did. And they were so desperate for him to return to the CHT, which obviously he never did. And but it was just a wonderful experience to meet his family and to sort of feel their pride. He was also incredibly generous. My colleague Fiona, I remember her telling me when she went to the UN and went out with a big group of Indigenous people on an excursion, and they ended up at a cafe, and Ramona absolutely insisted on buying coffees for the whole group. He must have spent more in that one round of drinks than he spent on himself in an entire year, probably a decade. Yet he was still so determined and, you know, generous and warm. And everyone at Survival knows Ramondu's name, and deservedly so. He's really famous for his warmth, his generosity, and his dedication. And I think he's been an inspiration to so many of us and to so many people further afield as well, because of all the sacrifices he made, because of his warmth and kindness. And, you know, I think all of us will dearly miss him, and we're so sorry that he's gone.
Thank you, Sophie. And I thank also from all of us from the CHT for all the support that we have received from Survival International. And of course, we're counting on you as we go forward to continue with the support. Speaking of Dr. Dewan, I remember that my father used to support him regularly, and he refused to take any support. And the only way we could get him to accept it was to say that this was for all the postage that he had to spend on sending all the materials out and to buy paper. You know, if you put it into that context, only then would he accept a small contribution. We move now to Jan. And Jan Render, it's great, wonderful to see you after so many years, and also very strong, staunch supporter of the CHT campaign. Jan, you have the microphone. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Good day, everyone. I shall be brief. Most of the important issues have been mentioned already. Dr. Dewan, for us, Ramondu, always Ramondu, and he never actually, of course we knew he was Dr. Dewan, but then he always said, no, Ramondu, pleased to meet you, Ramondu. Met him many times, different occasions, different situations, and exactly what Sophie was saying, even though he was so modest and humble in his own spending, when we would meet as a group, he would spend on us. He would want to treat us always. And we knew that would be difficult for him, but yet, no, he insisted. So in that sense, he was totally committed also to, I'm doing this work, but I want you to join in that work. So let me keep you happy. And, you know, if I look, you know, back in all those years that we have been receiving information from him, I think it was because of his insistence to continue to have the list of atrocities being documented properly, actually evidence was being built. List of evidence was being built. Now, some people said, oh, it's too much, it's all repetition, this, that, and the other. In the end, if you don't have the numbers, if you don't have the details, if you want to make a case, if you bring it to the publicity in terms of details of what happens and what happens in a new situation, it doesn't work. So he was doing that continuously, and indeed spending all his money on postage and on paper and printing and copying. But he also came, when we had a demonstration in London, we had a picket in London, he came there as well. A bit careful, but you know, he was there. So I remember him as somebody who was totally committed to the rights and self-determination of indigenous peoples in the Chittagong Hill Tracts. And his entire life has been spent on that. And I remember him as a great friend, a great person to work with, a great person for his commitment, for his inspiration to show that it can be done. We must do it, and we shall continue to do it, even if he has not seen the final result of a liberated, self-determined people yet. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jan, and thank you for such a very clear, precise dedication to Dr. Dewan. We move now to some of our other speakers. I'm going to now call on there's quite a few of our CHT activists and participants and Jummas who have joined the event. And so the first one I'm going to call on is Kumar Sivashi Shroy. If you can say a few words, because you're based in England and it's with the Jumma People's Network in the UK that has always been in very close contact with Dr. Dewan. Please go ahead, Maningya.
Thank you, Didi. I am Sivashi, younger brother of Rajkumari Chandra Kalindi and Raja Devashish. I have another younger brother and another sister, so we are 5 in total. It's, what can I say? I feel overwhelmed to have you all on my screen, all at one go, at one time, because I know you all by name. Some of you have seen images, some black and white, some colored, and some of you have never seen any images, but I knew the name. And also I've heard through Chandra, through my elder sister, mentioning all of you and all the wonderful work that you all have been doing, and I hope that you will continue to do, because the torch we have to carry on now. Dr. Dewan has like a marathon run. He's done 800 meters or maybe 1,000 meters marathon. He's a runner. He's been running for the last 40, 50 years, and he was running 5,000 miles. Now, the torch, we have to carry on the torch. Obviously, especially the people of the CHT, because we can't expect others to help us, even more. They have done a lot for us, and hopefully they will do. And we count on the blessings and on the well wishes, on the metta, on the compassion towards us. But then it's down to us, the people of the Chittagong Hill Tracts, who were born there, who were raised there, who have some sort of loyalty towards the people and towards the land. We have to carry on the torch, and we must not vacillate. We must not give up. A lot has done, we have achieved a lot through people, dedicated individuals like Dr. Dewan and many of you, many other Jumma people who are not present with us. But without the international support, we would not have arrived at this stage. And may I just mention that because of the international help, because of the international exposure that our atrocities, our news have received through the hard work of all of you compassionate, kind, generous people, there has been a lot of lives have been saved, I must say. A lot of atrocities have been stopped, or they have changed the plans to carry out other actions that could have been very detrimental to the lives of the people. It's all about saving lives here. It's lives that matter. Now, for example, somebody else was mentioning about the number of people who have perished, the number of atrocities or number of affected people. As far as I've read for the moment, it's all the figures about between 8,500 to 10,000 persons who've lost their lives, according to different sources. But we don't know the real number. And let's see, it's not only the figure, but it's behind each and every figure. We must remember there's a human being, and behind each human being lost or suffered, who has been victimized, there are other people, his family, his brothers and sisters, parents, children, have also been affected through that one person. So I don't think I should go on any longer with this. I was completely shocked, and I still feel very saddened. I'm grieving in a way. And in a way, I do feel a bit of guilt, as Sophie has mentioned, being here in the UK. You know, maybe we could have done something more for him. Although I know that he was a bit of a hermit, liked to keep to himself. He didn't sort of go out socializing. Maybe he considered them a waste of time. And one thing I'd like to mention is, in a way, it's good that he didn't have a family. He didn't get married, or he didn't have children. In a way, it's good. Obviously, it's his personal decision that's made. But as long as the people are concerned, if he did have a family, did have children, did have a wife, I think he wouldn't have been able to dedicate all those hours, all the effort, all the money towards the campaign. So in a way, I'm talking selfishly, maybe, in a way, I think he knew that deep down, is that if he did, lead a normal life as any other, all of us are normal human beings leading normal lives, having family, children, looking after them. But then I think he went the extra mile. His people became his family. We were his family. People of Chittagong Hill Treks were his family. Because his blood relatives were all far away, and he lost a few of his relatives in the conflict as well, as far as I know. And I think he did mention to me once or twice. He was extremely pious. He was a pure individual, generous, simple, humble, extremely humble, and egoless. I've never met a person like him who's absolutely no ego, no pride. His focus was on others. So when his focus was on others, he forgot about himself. That's why things like being in the cold or being hungry really didn't matter, because his focus was not on himself, but on others, on the CHT, on the Jumma people. He was very determined, he was dogged, and we need people like him. With us all those years of persistence, cold determination, grit. Absolutely amazing, absolutely amazing. I've met him on several occasions, especially after coming to the UK. I came in the year 2000. And then we met in London, and I remember him when he heard that, when he found out that I was going to speak up at SOAS, I think, there's a School of Oriental and African Studies in London. He was very pleased to hear the talk. There were other Jumma friends as well. We all went and participated there. He was very happy that more and more Jummas were coming to the UK. And he was very generous, even if I can mention a small thing that, my daughter, she used to send £5 for Christmas. He was a man who needed every penny. He was living on a very meager income, and he used to even send £5 to my daughter on Christmas for several years. And I understand that Ujjoini used to do that with Ujjoini's daughter as well. So a man who was selfless, generous, thoughtful, I really miss him, to be honest. And I fear then nobody else will be able to do his work, unfortunately. I don't see anybody else in our community who is willing to go that extra mile for him. I think I'll just finish with these words. Thank you.
Thank you very much for providing a very powerful picture of Ramendo as a person, and bringing out his warmth and his generosity and his kindness. Thank you very much. This is just to say that Sivashi is our secret weapon. We only bring him out occasionally. Otherwise, it's that he's been doing his work, and we're hoping that, of course, in the UK, this will continue. He's also a member with the Jumma People's Network in the UK, and they are the ones who have been in the forefront of the work that is ongoing in the UK and, of course, elsewhere as well. Thank you very much. We move now down under to Australia, and I have the honor to call on Mr. Vinota Dhamai. Vinota. He is a member of the Expert Mechanism on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples and is doing his PhD there in Australia. Vinota, would you like to say a few words?
Kulumka, Jojo, thank you, Didi, Chandradi, and thank you to the organizer for inviting me today, for giving me this opportunity to share few words on Dr. Ramona Chanda. I actually am here today to hear from the elders, those who were closely worked with Dr. Ramona Chanda, because I have heard so much about him. I never had the opportunity to meet him and to get some lessons about this international advocacy or doing the work for the Jumma peoples. But I'm here today to hear from the elders, like his colleagues from Ulgong May, Professor, and also Yaneke Arends, from whom I heard a lot about. I read the documents on the Chittagong Hill Tracts from their research work and from their work, and also to hear the experiences from Dr. Untitled Dewan, Elsa Stamatopoulos, and others on the Ramona Chanda. What I can share from my point of view is that he was the person for the voiceless peoples of the Chittagong Hill Tracts and the voiceless peoples of the Jumma peoples, whose voices need to be heard at the international level. And he played these crucial roles to bridge this communication and to reach out to the international communities and build networks and friends and communities, and he successfully did it. I recalled Chandradi often shared with me when we met. And even when she became the chief of the secretary of the Permanent Forum, and most of the times I was there for the Permanent Forum session, the word she just mentioned a while ago, she often referred to me, this is like means get stronger before they eat something because you need to save, something like that. And that's the inspiration, the philosophy a person transferred from generation to generation type, like what he thought, how should be an activist determining these advocacy activities. And that's what he transferred the knowledge, and the words is a symbolic but very meaningful, powerful. That what Chandradi also often referred to me in the Permanent Forum whenever we met during the Permanent Forum session. So that's one thing. Also, other thing is the experience sharing once after the Asia Regional Preparatory Meeting in the Philippines, in the Baguio City. Myself, Chandradi, and Lola, we are traveling together from Baguio City to the Manila to take the flight towards Bangkok, and Lola will be leaving for Copenhagen. And all this journey, we are talking about our situation, indigenous peoples movement, Jumma peoples in the Chittagong Hill Tracts, and the role Dr. Ramona Chanda has been playing for the campaign and advocacy at the international level. And Chandradi's experience, her first meeting, how she was influenced by the Dr. Ramona Chanda in Geneva during the working group of indigenous population sessions. It was really a great experience sharing, and it was also very, very deepening thought that passed to me, like how an activist should be carried out the activities at the international level. So as the elders have already mentioned that this Dr. Ramona Chanda movement, how he contributed sharing the issues of the Chittagong Hill Tracts, and also the core issue, the right to self-determination of the Jumma peoples, that the Jumma peoples has been struggling for determining their political, social, economic, and cultural development. This also, I'll say that his campaign, we only able to bring the fruitful when actually the current Chittagong Hill Tracts Accord get implemented properly. To some extent, I will say that his soul will be at peace, will get a peace, if at least the Chittagong Hill Tracts Accord properly implemented at this moment. Because why I'm saying this, while I was going through this accord, to some extent it has provided regional autonomy that gives you to some extent of self-determination of the Jumma peoples in the Chittagong Hill Tracts region. It has also given to some extent the power sharing mechanisms within the sovereign state, whereas indigenous peoples can survive as indigenous peoples in the Chittagong Hill Tracts regions, or as a Jumma peoples in the Chittagong Hill Tracts region. So this is important also because many of you in your research work and your sacrifices, your dedication towards the Jumma people issues will also get some extent of fulfilled when it's really implement properly. I see this way the self-determination at this moment for the Chittagong Hill Tracts context. So I'll not take time. I'd like just to suggest one thing here today. The elders and your friends who worked with Dr. Ramona Chanda, if you can initiate to publish something, souvenir or some sort of publications from your memory, working with him and your experience, it will be a great help also for the young generation to understand about him. So yeah, that's what my proposal at this moment, and I will conclude by saying paying my respect for the dedications and sacrifices of Dr. Ramona Chanda and praying for his peace. Thank you so much again for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Binota, and of course, as Binota says, Dr. Dewan will always be an inspiration to all of us, and I'm sure that he will also continue to inspire others and other activists to go continue the work. We're going to turn now to Ramona Chanda, who works in women affairs and in development. Ramona, you have the microphone, please go ahead. Maybe if you just introduce yourself a little bit so we know who you are. This is one of our young ones coming up.
Thank you, Chandadi. Juju Bekonore. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ramona Chanda. I'm a barrister by training, and I'm also a gender equity and development activist. Many of you will not know me. My work in Chittagong Hill Tracts is in sustainable development, and my focus is on women's rights and education in general. I started by mentoring a group of girls in a local school called Monghar. Today, I'm here to pay tribute to my Aju, Dr. S Dewan, who sadly left us this year. Despite living in the UK and being only 163 miles away, I could not ever meet him in person. So I'll share a bit on what I know about him or what I have come to know about him. In terms of my background, my curiosity for Chittagong Hill Tracts started at a very early age when I heard horrific stories of injustices towards the indigenous girls. And these were told by my father, who served as a police officer in that region in the early 1980s. And that led me to where I am today as an activist. I first came to know about Dr. Dewan and about his work through my mother-in-law, Shukla Dewan, who happens to be his niece. She's the daughter of his elder brother. Through her, I got a sneak peek of his life and how he was as a person. I got to know that he was a passionate and a true educator. His thoughts were way ahead of his time. He believed in women's education. He believed in girls' education, an issue that we're still fighting today. He encouraged his nieces to get educated. I know for a fact that he wanted his niece, my mother-in-law, to complete her graduation and pursue higher studies abroad in the UK. When she was a little girl, he encouraged her to pursue her dreams and used to give her gifts. So one of the gifts that she remembers was a book called Chobite Prithivi, which in Bengali means the world in photos. This was his way of introducing her to the world and the great adventures that it entails. So while he was studying at Dhaka University, he used to communicate with his nieces and nephew by writing letters. And in their responses, if there were any mistakes, he would correct them. He would also spend a lot of time after lunch assigning them questions of mathematics. And so he was very aware and he was very dedicated and he was educating and empowering. I believe in through his every act, through his every action. I have come to know that when my mother-in-law learned to weave, he encouraged her by rewarding her so that she keeps up the indigenous skills and craftsmanship, which is at a declining, at a threatening level today. There are many stories like that where that I have heard, where he helped students from disadvantaged backgrounds. He helped them financially so that they can continue their education. We know that he never married, but I know that he wanted to preserve his heritage and culture and wanted the region of Chittagong Hill Tracts to flourish. Yet the younger generation and even people like me, I am a Bengali by my ethnic background. We do not know enough about this great man and all the work that he did, and who basically dedicated his entire life in research and in uplifting the lives of people in his community. He was aware of and often spoke about the hostility of the Bengalis towards the indigenous people in Bangladesh. It makes me sad to see that the attitude and the treatment of Bengalis towards the indigenous community has not changed even in the last 50 years of this country. In fact, the aftermath of Bengali settlement in the region, when the indigenous people have been forced towards the hills, we have even started to call or label the community as Pahari, which is not the accurate term. It is rather derogatory towards the community. So the indigenous community in Bangladesh has not received, definitely not received the deserving recognition as the Adivasis of the country, and hence the lack of rights, the lack of agency and entitlement. In the past few months, there have been famine, acute water shortage, measles outbreak killing many children, and these are examples of events that greatly impact human lives. And sadly, these are also events that are absolutely avoidable. These events happened due to the sheer negligence of the authorities. Today, we're discussing self-determination of Chittagong Hill Tracts, yet the indigenous people haven't even received the basic rights as citizens. There is open hate speech shared by Bengalis. There is adverse portrayal of them in the media. And above all, there is a noticeable lack of awareness and acceptance by the Bengalis. So I'm sure that we all here, those of us who are present today, we are aware of the injustices towards the indigenous community. I will not elaborate any further on that. However, remembering this great soul, Dr. Dewan, that we had amongst us, I invite you all to come together in whatever capacity possible to pray for his departed soul and fulfill his unfinished dream, that is to make Chittagong Hill Tracts a developed region where people are not deprived of their basic rights. As a gender equity and development activist, I vow to work towards Indigenous women's rights, education of children, and on the overall sustainable development and welfare of the region. That would be my tribute to this great soul. Chandradi, you started today by saying that we gathered here for a sad cause. I would like to add that maybe we gathered here for a sad cause, but this collective effort will hopefully help us in creating and in taking greater positive strides. I finish by submitting my prayers for his soul. I hope that his soul rests in peace. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, and it's really good to meet you in through Zoom, because I'm sure that some of the others as well, we were not aware of you, and I think you can be a great contributor to the cause. And it's very nice to know that you're actually related to Dr. Dewan. Finally, we have someone who has some connection through your mother-in-law. So a very warm welcome. And we look forward to hearing more about you and more work that you do for us, for not just us, for your people, because you are now part of us. Thank you very much. We had Dr. Mesbah Kamal, but I think we've lost him again now. So we'll wait to see if he comes back on. And in the meantime, we move to Gautam Kumar Chakma. Gautam Babu Agode?
Yes.
Tiga तुम्हारा दांत देख के हदान जो
Hello. Hello.
Shona sir.
Hello. Mishunni.
Shona sir, দেখা যায় না স্যার।
Hello.
কইছো না তুমি, আমি শুনির তো তোমার এনে।
হ্যাঁ দেখা যায় মুই তো দেখা করে না এনে হি ইয়ে না রাতে
শোনা যাত দাও।
Okay. Sorry that I could not join timely because of the problem of power. Shona যায়? Okay.
শোনা যায়, শোনা যায়।
Firstly, I would like to give thanks to the organizers and the participants. And I could hear speeches, deliberations of some speakers, and I missed some others. And before I start my discussion on Dr. Ramona Chanda Dewan, I would like to pay my regards to him and pray for the emancipation of his soul and to have an upgraded life in her next birth. And I don't remember exactly the time when I heard the name of Dr. Ramona Chanda Dewan, but I can just recall this one, that when I got admitted into Rangabati College in 1969 and started reorganizing Hill Students Association at that time I won.
I think we seem to have lost Mr. Gautam Kumar Chakma. It's I don't see him. In the meantime, since we've lost him, I was just, and we have Mr. Mesbah Kamal with us. I was just thinking that perhaps Mr. Kamal, Dr. Kamal, you would like to say a few words while we wait for Mr. Gautam Chakma to come back on. I understand. Please go ahead. Professor Kamal, we can't hear you. Are you able to speak? Professor Kamal, would you like to say a few words? I can't hear you. Okay, I think we can't hear either. Professor Kamal, we cannot hear you. I don't know if you can hear us. Oh, we've now lost him as well. And I don't see Dr. Professor Gautam Babu we seem to have lost him as well. Is there anyone else? I know that we have some others as well who wanted to say a few words. I turn back now. Is there anyone else who wanted to say anything, or shall we move on to Pradhir? Pradhir, I turn it back to you because I think we won't be able to get them with the connections. Pritibindu and Pradhir, I turn it over to you now. Thank you for organizing so we can conclude.
Thank you, Chandradi. Thank you all. Today, we not only remember Dr. S Dewan with great pride, but also acknowledge the many individuals who have been involved with the Chittagong Hill Tracks issue since the very beginning, some of whom are here with us till today. We have the highest regard for them and for the organizations they are tied with, for having played a key role in bringing our issue to the forefront of international discussion and for always providing immense support to us. Here, I would express my deep sense of gratitude and love to Yaneke, Dr. Wolfgang May, whom I personally met during the visit of Chittagong Hill Tracks Commission in those crucial days of military rule in Bangladesh. I gratefully acknowledge Yaneke's consistent support, which, while she was in Dhaka, we would like to express our sincere appreciation to both individuals and organizations like Anti-Slavery Society, Amnesty International, Survival International, Chittagong Hill Tracks Commission, UNPO, and so on. Over the years, they put in massive efforts to accomplish the work of gathering support for the movement from a larger audience at global level. Indeed, through their directed efforts and enormous support, the amount of work they have accomplished thus far cannot be stated enough. It is because of your work that so much attention has been drawn to the nature of the political situation in the Hill Tracks. We thank you for showing selfless and consistent interest in our cause and for giving us a platform to voice our concerns as an oppressed people. We want you to know that we have not forgotten you for your tireless advocacy. And so we would like to take this opportunity to formally express our profound gratitude in being a compassionate supporter and friend to our cause. Finally, thank you all for participating in this event. Thanks a lot. Chandradi.
Thank you all very much for joining
Thank you.
us.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Saya kok partisipan lagi. Baktiun, saya mau solo. Mau karena aja deh.
Di ami continue করতে আরো
মুইদোশেন কে সামতে আমি তো কে প্রতিদিন আর পৃথিবীন্দু ফুরালঙ্গে নয়নি ফুরালঙ্গ the backkunora thank you Juju backun gometeyo thank you all very much stay safe thank you for joining
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Yaneki, see you. I hope to see you.
Yeah, maybe in India next time.
Facebook like pan habe dile gomo Facebook like ko agesi.
Thank you.